Unity. Unity. Unity intensifies the power of God. Yeah, you may say, well, that's simple. Let me tell you something. It's simple to read it, but it's not simple to see it happen. People today are more divided than any other time in church history. Yes. There are people disagreeing about every kind of thing you can, but forget what is happening out there. If there is unity in one room between three, united, just three, or two, God will move in. If any two or three are there in my name, that means unity, that means oneness, that means united. God, I remember those early days of our ministry when I used to have meetings in homes. I love those, I think, more than I sometimes love those crusades. I would sit in homes and there'd be 20, 30 or so people. And the unity sometimes would come in so strong. I hardly had to minister. The power of God would come in, we'd all start crying. Me included. And the thing, the presence of God would just come in so strong and so heavy with only just a few. It's harder to unite thousands, but it's easy to unite 3, 4, 5, 10, because that one heart comes in. And I remember Catherine Kuhlman saying, she said, the day will come when that unity will exist in the church, and only then will all be healed. What's holding us from seeing that glorious day where all will be healed is just that one thing, unity. Oh, she'd stand and cry and she'd say, if there only could be unity, if there only could be unity, oneness, what God can do. So we must pray for that, oneness. Thirdly, Acts 14, 8, and 9 and 10. Faith. Faith. Acts 14. Look what it says here. Acts 14, verse 8, and there sat a certain man at Lystra, impotent in his feet, being a cripple from his mother's womb, who never had walked. This man was a cripple, never had walked. The same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him, and perceiving that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, stand upright on thy feet. And he leaped and walked. What brought this man's miracle? Faith. Faith, in this case, released the power of God and increased it upon Paul. But something else, and that is one glorious key that I've experienced many times. 2 Kings chapter 3. Turn to it. 2 Kings chapter 3. Verse 15. Oh, how I understand this verse. I think I understand this verse better than I know anything in life is this right here. 2 Kings 3:15. Look what it says. You're all there? 2 Kings 3:15. Now bring me a minstrel. It came to pass when the minstrel played that the hand of the Lord came upon him. Worship. When the minstrel played, the hand of the Lord came upon him. Oh, dear Lord, how Cheryl has been that minstrel. She begins to play that organ and she follows me and almost like an eagle discerning the winds and where they're going. And at one point, she just knows I'm about to fly. I'm about like that eagle, just ready. See, the eagle stands on a rock and it just waits for the right winds to come by. And when the right winds come by, it just soars. It doesn't fly, it just surrenders to the winds. But you wait for the right winds to come by. And so many don't know how to do that. They hear the winds and hide somewhere. Oh, I watch for those winds. And then there's a moment you just know it's the strongest it'll be that night and just let go. But worship brings you to that place where, like the eagle stands on that rock and waits for the right currents. Worship. Not praise, worship. That's what I think so many lack. Worship. We are big on praise. Churches sell tapes on praise all the time. Praise groups, a dime a dozen. But hardly anybody knows how to worship. Worship has nothing to do with praise. In fact, it has nothing to do with music. You don't even need an instrument to worship. Are you listening? Yeah. Learn how to worship, and you learn one of those keys that intensifies the power of God. First time I ever saw it was with an Englishman. I was 19, 20, maybe less. I don't know, some of them. The first healing minister I ever saw was in the 70s, 70, 72, I don't know, somewhere there. Or, yeah. I can't think of his name. And he came to the catacombs. That was the name of this church I used to attend. And every Thursday night they had a big speaker. That's the days when Corrie ten Boom came and Ern Baxter came and Derek Prince and all the biggies. And one of the nights they brought this man. Every Thursday, 3,000 kids would gather. 3,000. This is back in the 70s. They were called the Jesus Movement days. And every Thursday night, this massive Anglican cathedral called St. Paul's, downtown Toronto, would packed. 3,600 seats would be jammed. This is back in the 70s. No TBN, no Christian TV, just long-haired kids. And they would bring, every Thursday, they would bring somebody to speak to us. I just gotten saved. And now, of course, began to attend. And that's where I met Corrie ten Boom, and I met Derek Prince and all the greats. One Thursday, they bring this old man. He walked real slow. I don't know. And he wore a white suit, kind of not totally white, but almost. Very sweet little man, just real gentle. And he got up and just talked and talked and talked and talked about almost nothing. And all of us kids were like, you know. He talked about how he had, I remember this one story. He talked about how he had gone to the garden tomb and how he was sitting there and how he waited for the Lord. And he's just going on and he's just kind of chatting with us. Now, you got to understand something. We've just, during those days, we've had the greatest speakers on earth. Bob Mumford, Corrie ten Boom, Ern Baxter, the greats. Some of you don't even know who I'm talking about. But how many know who I'm talking about? Yeah. These were the great charismatic leaders of the day. And so, you know, every Thursday, we've heard the most amazing things. Lorne Cunningham would come and others. And now comes this unknown man. Nobody knew him from Adam. And he's blabbing about nothing. Now, I had never felt anything until that man said, now just a whisper. Boy, he said a whisper and the whole place began crying. Yeah, he was just blabbing about nothing. He just went on and on and on, and the kids were, you know how young people are, you know. Everybody's talking, and he didn't care. He kind of just kept going. And then he just stopped. I'll never forget, he just stopped, and he just stared at us. Well, you know, everybody kind of stared back. I was sitting on the platform behind him on the side. The place would be so packed, many of us kids would just sit on the platform. This is a massive cathedral, 3,600 seats. So I was about, 4 or 5 guys down on the side. And he just stood there. Just stood. He didn't move. Suddenly he became very quiet. And as he was quiet, the whole place just, every eye now was on him. No music. No instruments. He just said, now quiet. And he said, quietly, and you felt something go through the whole building. Just the whole place got almost like electricity went through the place. And he said, now, hallelujah. And we began singing hallelujah, and people began getting healed. And I got so scared, I hid behind the thing.